Oregon basketball is an outright mess. Not on the women's side. Kelly Graves got them doing great. They got blown out by Michigan this week after a big upset at Michigan State. They are outperforming my expectations. I thought they'd be improved. They're doing awesome. To begin the season, Dana's squad was in the same boat. I had set high expectations for them. I still have high hopes, but my confidence in their ability to play their full potential right now is close to zero. Because they're in a stretch in which they have lost 4 of 5 games. Their only win was at home against Washington. They have a loss on the road at then 2-6 in Big Ten play, Minnesota. They lose on Sunday 77-71 at home against Nebraska, who was 3-7 in conference play. And they went on the road to UCLA, who's good but not great. And they got swept in the season series. Bruins got a little fortunate the first go round at Matthew Knight Arena. And rather than that being motivational fuel, they got blasted and didn't even hit the 60-point threshold. One of the lowest point totals in the Dana Altman era. This is a 3-game losing skid. Oregon was 16-3. And now they're 16-6, going into a brutally tough road trip. It is going wrong. It is all going. Oregon was at one point in time, literally last week before this 3-game skid, projected by Joe Lunardi as a 3 seed. And to make a Final Four run and have at least a favorable matchup in the first round that keeps you away from major upset potential, you need to be a top 4 seed. The number of 13 seeds that win pales in comparison to the number of 12 seeds that beat 5 seeds. But Oregon, with 3 straight losses like this, I am almost certain once Lunardi's next bracket projection comes out, they are not going to be a top 5 seed. And they don't deserve to be, because they are playing horrifically bad basketball. They are not playing well defensively for a full 40 minutes. They did pretty well on defense in the first half against Nebraska. 34 points, that's okay. Not great, but it's okay. And then in the second half, they give up a 43-piece on their home floor. After Thursday night, they were embarrassed by UCLA. Embarrassed in the second half. And then you come out against an average at best, probably below average given their record, 3-7 in conference play. That can be misleading in the Big Ten, but Nebraska is not a great team. Right now, I do not believe Lunardi'd have them as a tournament team. And they came into Matthew Knight Arena, and the only lead Oregon had was 2-0? That's the only time they led. They trailed almost the entire game. After your upset at Minnesota, I brushed that one off a bit. Not great, but you know what? I see those sorts of upsets happen on the road all over the Big Ten. Heck, Purdue lost on their home floor to Ohio State. Those sorts of things, okay. Then you go on the road and you lay an egg against UCLA. And one game I'll go, all right, that's going to happen. But then when it happens twice and you get blown out, I go, all right, this is now not good. And coming home against a winnable opponent, Oregon was 7.5-point favorites according to Vegas. They were flat. They got off to a slow start. They scored 4 points in the first about 6 minutes of the game. There was no urgency, no pride. They look slow, lethargic. Maybe they're battling the flu. I have seen that a lot with basketball programs this winter, that sickness is just hanging around everyone. That's how Oregon looks. But to not have the same amount of pride at the defensive end of the floor as they should, or that they need, not just on a game in, game out basis, but after the result on Thursday in which they lost at UCLA 78-52. You came back home at Matthew Knight Arena in front of those fans and you dropped an absolute dud. That is embarrassing. And this is now concerning, because there is an incredibly realistic world where Oregon is going to have a 5-game losing streak. And by the way, there are only so many opportunities to play winnable games down the stretch. They've got 9 games left. I pray they don't get to double-digit losses. I'm not that confident right now, because nothing about the offense looks fluid. There's no consistent identity. They don't always know who to go to. They're not shooting the basketball well. They were 40% from the field, and they were under that in the first half. 5 of 20 from 3. Keyshawn Bartholomew has gone completely cold, and that was to be expected because he was one of the hottest players in all of college basketball for the first half of the season. This is now a team that is in free fall, and they have to find their way out of it. And this was supposed to be the opportunity to at least get a stabilizing win, to go out and say, okay, we've weathered the storm. We didn't lose 3 in a row, but now you have to go at Michigan and at Michigan State. This is a horrible time for that road trip. Last time Oregon was on the road, oh yeah, they lost both games to unranked teams. Michigan's been in and out of the top 25. Michigan State's been ranked in the top 10 for most of the season. This is a horror. I have been bullish on this team since last May. They lived up to that potential early in the preseason when they went to Vegas, and I was hoping they'd go 2-1 between Texas A&M, San Diego State, and Alabama. 1-2 would have been fine. 0-3 would have been bad. 2-1 would have been great, and 3-0 literally wasn't even in my mind at that time, as high on them as I was. That's the potential. This is the same team. They don't have injuries to blame. They have themselves to blame. They don't play with urgency and aggression until they get down. And they got away with it a couple times. Against Portland, when they almost had a historically bad upset on their home floor. Got away with it. But now they're in Big Ten play, they're not getting away with it. And their resume is still really strong because of how good Alabama and Texas A&M are. But you can't keep stacking up these losses. If Oregon gets to double-digit losses, which is entirely possible, I suspect they'll still be in the tournament. I don't think they would be higher than a 6 or 7 seed. And they could frankly be lower than that. And then your first round game is a coin flip. This is an incredibly, incredibly disappointing stretch of games. 3 unranked teams, 3 losses, and Oregon only hit 70 points once and doesn't hit 75 in any of them. Offensively, they are inept. They've given up at least 75 in all of those games. They do not have a level of identity or consistency at either end of the floor that they need to reach their full potential. And I know it's in there because, like I said, it's the same team. They haven't been battling the injuries like they have. But this was an embarrassing performance to have at home on the heels of that UCLA game. And you now have to find a way to get a split with Michigan and Michigan State in Ann Arbor and East Lansing, or else you are going to have a 5-game losing skid. And the possibility, if they can't turn it around down the stretch, of not being an at-large tournament team comes into play. They have not fallen down to that level yet because, as I said, they have a bunch of quality wins on there. They have 7 quad 1 wins, but they haven't had a quality victory. The Penn State game was a good comeback, so was Ohio State. But their last, I think, decently high-level win was Maryland. That game, that was a while ago. That was a while ago. That was in their 4th conference game. And now they're sitting at 5-6. 5-6 in Big Ten play. So incredibly disappointing outcome. And they need to turn around. I mean, if they go out, which they will be underdogs in both games, and lose to Michigan and Michigan State, that locker room will need a complete and total reset. They already need one. They need to come out in their next game and play like their season depends on it, because they don't do that until they're down 15 points. Then they start to make a surge. You can't do that in conference play. You just can't. And I did not think I'd be able to say what I just did, which is, hey, you're not a lock for the tournament right now. You're not. You can't lose every single game from here on out and make the NCAA tournament. You can't do it. You're going to have to string some wins together. You get to 20, you're probably fine. But 9 games to go. and the Big Ten tournament. They got to figure it out, man, because they are at both ends. They are completely lost. I don't know how Dana rights the ship, but he's got to do it soon. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.